joined today by Mike Rosenstrike, Managing Director of Helix Resources. Mike, thanks for your time.
Hey David, how you going?
Can you explain a little bit about Helix and its assets?
Helix is a rejuvenated ASX mineral explorer. Rejuvenated, I mean that we're now looking for copper and focusing very much in central New South Wales in the Cobalt region. And that's a prodigiously endowed copper area, and we've got a really strategic land position there, and we're trying to get the company and its people to focus solely on finding copper in and around the Cobalt area. High grade copper and a significantly underexplored ground position.
Cobalt, what excites you about both the region itself and your land holding?
Well, I joined the company in January, and the reason that I did, and that excitement factor was, and I know it's a cliche, is this underexplored nature of the ground position that Helix have there. Helix has traditionally been sort of quite capitalised in a very miserly sort of way, very small raisings, small programs of work. And I just saw an opportunity there that if we gained regional data sets like the VTEM survey that we did in March of this year, that we could get a geological understanding of the entire ground position that we have. And that ground position sits immediately south of Aeris Resources' Triton operations, which includes their high-grade Constellation discovery, Currajong, and then the other ground position is around the Cambalago area, where we've been announcing these very significant results recently. So to recognise the opportunity and then to get the funding and be able to start to do systematic work, put in place a new team, that's been a lot of fun, and hopefully well appreciated by our shareholders, and I think there's a lot of potential still to come.
And what's happening on site now?
Right now we're drilling. We have actually been drilling probably non-stop almost since late April. We started off drilling at Cambalago, where we've had a series of really good results out there, and now we're drilling on our CZ deposit area. We're just finishing the last of 4 metallurgical holes. There's never been any metallurgical test work done on them, so this will be the first work that we're able to do. And I believe today the guys are moving the drill rig from diamond drilling to RC drilling, and we've got a program to start looking at the CZ resource extension potential. And so we'll be running that program over the course of the next few weeks, and then doing diamond tails. We're also doing a bit of work regionally. It's important that we do work that's focusing in around our existing resources and showing that we've got the growth potential, but critical that we demonstrate to people there's a pipeline of copper opportunities coming through. So we're doing quite a bit on the regional in terms of following up geophysics and geochem and things like that.
And you've recently expanded your land holding around the Colorina Trend. What's the theory behind that?
Look, it's been that ground position where we've acquired an extra tenement from a company called Alpha HPA is immediately adjacent to our CZ mineral resource. But what people may not be aware of is that the ground of that resource, it was originally Alpha HPA ground, and we earned in on the joint venture. So the reason behind the deal was to consolidate ground that we think is prospective for copper, but also do a lot of housekeeping around the pre-existing joint venture conditions. There was some preemptive rights, there was a 1.5% NSR royalty. So we're able to clean all of that up, and that's really what drove it.
And this ground does have some nickel cobalt potential, but you're not moving away from your copper focus.
Look, it does, and I love the battery energy material space, and nickel and cobalt are a fundamental part of that, as is copper. It actually has a mineral resource, mostly inferred but some indicated, about 18 million tonnes, a quite good grade nickel. It's a lateritic nickel and cobalt style deposit. Now straight away people go, oh my goodness, you're going into nickel and cobalt. Some of our shareholders have responded to that. No, we're not. It's an interesting opportunity. It's right in our backyard, and we'll do a little bit of work on the sites, and maybe we're able to attract some third-party investment, something of that nature into it. A lot of the work that we're going to do on those tenements, whether it's for copper or for nickel and cobalt, it overlaps, so we can add value either which way.
So there has been, along with the M&A work that you've been doing, there has been other M&A activity in the area?
There's been little bits and pieces. I think there's still significant opportunities to come in there and take a stronger footprint in terms of ground that we consider to be prospective, and we're continuing to assess opportunities. The nickel cobalt side is interesting, just coming back to that. I think Sunrise Energy, that has the Cyaston nickel cobalt Scandium project to the east of us. If I recall right, they spent about $2.5 million in cash and scrip to buy a nickel cobalt prospect, which is about 40 kilometres to the south of us. So it kind of puts some measure there in terms of the value and this resource that you were referring to before for the nickel and cobalt. But in some ways, I think Cobar still flies under the radar a little bit. And you've got groups like Eris who've been in that area for over 30 years, large ground positions, and are now in the financial position where they can do much more meaningful work over the last year or so, and they're making new discoveries. And that's the systematic methodological approach that I want to bring into the properties, as well as being vigilant for other opportunities for ground that we like.
You are in New South Wales and regional New South Wales, and there have been and are still lockdowns in the region. Has that impacted your ability to do work? And if it has, what can you do during these times?
Look, it's a real concern. It has impacted on our ability to move around to some degree, particularly people that are in our state, but it's kind of coincided with our whole exploration team moving to our new base out of Orange. So our exploitation team is now based in New South Wales, and we are able to continue working, as indeed we are, but I'd just say that it's really concerning, COVID moving to the west of New South Wales into these vulnerable regional communities. That's a key concern for us and our stakeholders, and we do communicate with them on an ongoing basis to make sure that our employees, our landowners, and all the other community stakeholders are comfortable with what we're doing.
Looking forward, what are some of the milestones investors should focus on?
Well, we've had these long delays in assays. All exploration companies have had this long turnaround time. We're finally, in the next couple of weeks, going to get the last of our assay results from the final hole of that successful program we put in at Cambelago, the joint venture with Eris. So that's a positive. We've also, just as an aside, negotiated a faster turnaround time for our assays for our future work, so that hopefully will compress that time frame. We're doing regional work. We've got geophysical surveys, we've got geochem work happening, and of course we've got this drill rig that's moving on now with the RC and the diamond tails to look for resource extensions around CZ. All of that news flow should be coming out in the next 6, 8, 10 weeks. We're well funded. We've got a really strong program ahead of us. It is a little bit frustrating trying to maneuver around COVID and get our exploration team sort of repositioned to be based in New South Wales, but we're starting to pick that momentum up again now.
So a new team gives you the opportunity to look back in some respects of the data you've collected, the information you've got, to remodel, to relook, to go through it with a fresh set of eyes. Are you doing that at the moment?
Absolutely we are, and look, the opportunities are on several fronts. One is that the company has never really pushed some of the data sets very hard because of capital constraints and things, as we discussed. And also, it's been on the ground there for over 10 years, so there is quite a lot of data to work through. And like at Cambelago, we had geophysical data sets that were generated 10 years ago. And in 10 years, geophysical data collection methods and processing have just improved out of sight. So there's opportunities to just use modern analytical techniques on the existing data, as well as the new set of geological eyes. And these are eyes that are now based in New South Wales. They're not flying in and out. So there's a lot more sort of residual geological thinking time, if you like, as people drive home every night. And all of that, and the camaraderie and the technical collaboration, all builds in, I think, to getting real strong momentum in terms of what we're doing in New South Wales.
Well funded, an exciting suite of assets, strong news flow to come, and a clear focus on exploration to lead to outcomes and value for shareholders. Mike, thanks for your time.
Thank you for listening, David.